Hollowbrook High stood against the night, its windows dark, its old brick walls whispering secrets. The school had been around for over 80 years, and with it came countless ghost story students disappearing, strange noises, a janitor who died under mysterious circumstances. Max, Liz, Jake, Danny, and Clara stood at the back entrance, staring at the building under the cold moonlight. One night, Max grinned, holding up his phone to record. "We spend one night here, prove nothing's haunted, and we win the bet." Danny scoffed. "I still think this is dumb." Liz crossed her arms. "If it's so dumb, why are you here?" Danny hesitated. "Because, if something does happen, I want to see it for myself." Jake, always the skeptic, laughed. "Please, ghosts aren't real." Clara, the quiet one, shivered. "I just don't want to be locked in." Max pushed open the door. Too late for that. They stepped inside, the door creaking behind them, and then it locked. "Dude, did you do that?" Liz turned to Max. Max shook his head, jiggling the handle. "It's stuck." Danny frowned. "It's an old building. Maybe the latch." Then the school bell rang. A loud, piercing chime. The five of them froze. "Impossible," Clara whispered. "It's midnight." The sound echoed through the halls, bouncing off the walls, like a voice trying to warn them. Then, in the distance, footsteps. Slow, heavy, coming closer. Jake held up his flashlight. "Probably Reynolds, the janitor. If he catches us, we're screwed." "We'll just hide," Max whispered. "Come on." They ran down the hallway, ducking into an empty classroom. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then knock, knock, knock. Someone or something was tapping on the classroom door. No one moved. Clara clutched Liz's arm. "We should leave," Danny whispered. "How?" "The door's locked." The knocking continued. Then the door handle turned. Slowly, deliberately, Jake grabbed a chair, ready to swing, but the door didn't open. Instead, something slid underneath it. A crumpled note. Liz hesitated before picking it up. In shaky red writing it said, "You're not alone." The lights flickered, and then Jake screamed. They spun around. Jake was gone. His flashlight lay on the floor, rolling in slow circles. "What the hell?" Danny gasped. Max ran to the door and yanked it open. Jake wasn't in the hallway. It was empty. "Jake!" Liz shouted, her voice echoing. No answer. Clara backed against the wall, shaking. "We need to leave." Max turned to her. "You think we don't know that?" Then the school intercom crackled to life. A voice had distorted, static-filled hummed an old nursery rhyme. "Ring around the rosy?" A loud thump echoed through the ceiling. Danny swallowed. That came from the science lab. The hallway stretched before them like a tunnel, the dim emergency lights barely flickering. The air was wrung too still, too heavy, like the school itself was holding its breath. The door to the science lab was open. Inside, the room smelled like rotten meat and chemicals. And on one of the desks, Jake, his body was sprawled unnaturally, his eyes wide open, his mouth frozen in a scream. Blood dripped from his nose, pooling onto the desk. And on the chalkboard, something had written in shaky letters, "You're next." Then the door slammed shut. The shadows moved, and the whispering began. The air turned ice cold. The whispers grew louder. Clara started sobbing. Liz clutched her own arms, shaking. Danny banged on the door. Max turned to the shadows shifting in the corner, and then it stepped forward. At first, it looked like a man in a janitor's uniform, but its head was wrong-tilted, at an unnatural angle. Its mouth stretched into a grotesque grin. The thing's voice was a distorted mix of Jake's voice, the old janitor's voice, and something inhuman. "Stay with us. Forever," Danny screamed as the shadow lunged. It pulled him into the darkness. His screams cut off instantly. Max grabbed a metal chair and swung. The figure vanished. The door flung open. Danny was gone. They ran. The hallways stretched endlessly. Every exit was gone. The windows melted when they tried to break them. The doors led back to where they started. Then, the school bell rang again, and suddenly, they were back in the basement. Everything reset. Jake was alive. Danny was alive. All 5 of them stood there, breathing hard. It was as if nothing had happened. Liz clutched Max's arm. What was that? Then the school bell rang. Footsteps echoed in the hall, and the nightmare began again. This time, they tried to fight back. They barricaded doors, burned books, screamed for help. Nothing worked. The entity always found them. And every time they died, they woke up again, back in the basement. Over and over and over. Time didn't exist. Their minds began fracturing. The whispers became part of them. Until one night, Clara gave up. She let the shadows take her. And she never woke up again. Max, Liz, and Danny were the last ones left. They had been trapped in the school for so long, they had lost count of the nights. But something changed. That night, the school bell didn't ring. The entity whispered, "One of you may leave." Danny pushed Max aside and ran. The entity laughed. The doors burst open. Danny screamed as the darkness devoured him. Max and Liz never saw him again. And then, suddenly, the school was silent. The front doors unlocked. The next morning, Mr. Reynolds arrived to clean the school. The hallways were quiet. The basement was empty. No trace of the students was ever found. But late at night, the janitor swore he could hear the school bell ring, and footsteps, circling, waiting for the next ones to enter.